Hi, I'm Wendy. We're doing a little bit of outdoor videoing today, and we're new to this, so apologies for the sound. Things can only get better, but it's great fun. We're at the National Botanical Garden of Wales today at Llanarthen in Carmarthenshire. It's been a very nice February day, but I do know there's a good display of snowdrops here, so we're going to go and get some inspiration. Yeah, it's doggy day today. Dogs are allowed in here on Mondays and Fridays and occasional weekends. So we're looking forward to meeting some of my little dog Sam's friends here today as well. The snowdrops really were glorious, and the sun came out, so that was a bonus. There's lots of other things to enjoy at botanical gardens though. The hellebores and the daffodils are making an appearance. I just love the bulrushes at this time of year with all the seeds coming out of them. There's got to be a picture here somewhere. It's always a good idea if you're painting to take a camera with you or your phone and take some reference material. You've not got to use it straight away, but keep it filed and you never know when it will come in useful. If you like painting birds, there's usually a few ducks around on the ponds. They were very sleepy today. And then there's architecture as well. This is the old stable block. It's a lovely building. I painted this many years ago before they actually renovated it and started work on the gardens. And here it is. I managed to find it, painted in 1997. If you're interested, I put a link to the National Botanical Garden of Wales in the description below. Right then, no more digressing, we'll get down to painting some watercolour backgrounds here. I've done a simple little drawing of two snowdrops just to start with, and I've masked them out, and what I'm doing now is just damping the paper and I'm going to drop some colour behind them. The colours I'm using for this, as you can see, is a yellow, probably cadmium yellow, but it doesn't really matter, and a blue. It may be Prussian blue, you could use ultramarine or cobalt. It really doesn't matter at all. We're just going to, in fact, you should try different colours and experiment and just see what happens when you mix them. It's all very, very good practice. If you're unsure about applying the masking fluid, I have got another video which describes in a lot of detail how to put it on properly and make it successful. So go and have a look at that. As I'm painting here, you'll see that I'm using plenty of water, and also I'm trying to keep the darkest paint behind the snowdrops so that they'll stand out. So you've got your lightest light of the snowdrops behind some very dark bits of background there. Now here I'm sprinkling some just ordinary table salt into the wet paint, and it should give us a nice sort of textured effect in the background. You have to be very patient using this technique though. Let everything dry naturally, and then when you've finished you can just brush off any excess salt that's not dissolved. So I've let everything dry thoroughly, and now I'm using a rubber to get rid of the masking fluid. In fact, it's a special sort of rubber. It's called Frisk Mask Away, and it works really, really nicely for removing the masking fluid. I'll put you a link in the description below. No matter how carefully I put on masking fluid, I usually end up with one or two ugly shapes or little bits that have been missed. And what I usually do about this is get some white gouache and just tidy up using a small brush, as you can see here. So now I'm adding some very light yellow paint to the top of the snowdrop on the stem, and what you'll see then is I will mix up some darker green just to add some form to the, I think it's called the calyx at the top of the snowdrop and onto the stem. I'm using a very dilute cobalt blue to paint the cast shadows on the flowers. In an ideal world, you'd be working from a really good photograph and the cast shadows would be really evident. That's their position on the flower. Or you could set up some flowers and have a directional light coming from one side to paint them from life. Usually though, you've got a very diffuse light on your subject, and that was the case with these snowdrops today. So basically, in this situation, what I do is I have to make up the cast shadow on them. Have a general direction of your light source, and in this case it's coming from the left. And then use your imagination and what you've learned from observational drawings and from photographs and from observing in life, where the shadows would fall. Bear in mind that at the end of this exercise, all the pencil lines will be rubbed off. So what you've got to do is you've got to separate these petals by a change in tone and not by a pencil line. If you keep this in mind, then you can sort of work out where the shadows will go. If you tend to think of light to dark to light to dark, then that will help you in achieving the form in the little flowers. Just a few last details and the little picture is finished. I like to use these little studies to make some cards. People do love a hand-painted card. It's very personal and it's very much appreciated. So you could use these little studies to make your own cards. I use little aperture cards to do this that you can buy very easily. I also have a selection of these cards for sale in my eBay shop as well. I'll give you a link in the description below. And here are just another 4 that I did recently. As you can see here, I did 4 more little snowdrop drawings, each one a little bit different, and I'm going to just demonstrate one of them because I don't want you to get too bored, and I shall probably speed it up a little bit. You will notice towards the end that I sprinkled a little bit of salt on there, and I also laid some cling film over the wet paint. Doing this gives a really nice sort of textural feel to the background as well as the salt. So here we go then. Now with the cling film you can just lay it on loosely, in which case you'll get some sort of bigger shapes forming, or you can sort of crunch it up a little bit more and press it down as I did. The salt didn't work as well as it normally does underneath the cling film. The longer you leave the film on, the more sort of dramatic the results you'll get. I tend to leave it a few hours. A picture of my little experimental watercolours. They're all drying, and we'll see what they look like when I take the cling film off and when the salt's had all its effects. So here are the little pictures that I did. I tackled the painting of them exactly the same way as the first demonstration that I did on the video. I did a little bit of splattering with white gouache to sort of give the effects of snow as well. I do hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something. As always, I'd appreciate a thumbs up if you did, and remember you can always subscribe to my channel.
Have you got him on there? That's not very clever. We'll have to do it a third time.
Okay.